62, has been in custody since October last year.
Sorry, Council, clarify yourself. Delays?
By my learned friend for accused number 1. And then you asked him about the delays. And I'm just saying, this bail application started in March.
Yes.
He's been in custody since October last year. So this is nothing new to him. And when he handed himself over through his attorney, then where does the flight risk come in?
Applicant 2.
Sorry, Your Worship.
Applicant 2 handed himself over?
Yes. Sorry, Your Worship. He was arrested in Johannesburg.
Yes.
My apologies.
Yes.
But he's been aware of this case all along. That's the point.
But he was in custody on another case.
Yes. But he would have handed himself over had he been given the opportunity to do so.
But Mr. Wolmarans, let's understand each other so that we will flow. Where does handing himself over come in when he was arrested?
Himself, because he's represented by the same attorney. Had he been out and not in custody, he would have handed himself
I
over.
think let's rather talk about what happened. Let's rather talk about what happened.
Yes.
Did he hand himself over? Was he arrested?
He was arrested in Johannesburg.
So handing himself over does not feature.
It doesn't enter, as Your Worship points out. Now, as has repeatedly been pointed out by my learned friend, the state has not taken the court into its confidence, and Your Worship raised the question about the investigation and how far it was and so on. And if I may quote from the state's heads of argument, which unfortunately you have not had the opportunity to read, but if you go to paragraph 62, that there are further investigations that are still outstanding in this matter. It has been indicated that there is. It is not a secret that certain evidence is being followed up, which means that the investigation is not complete. There can be no other interpretation to that. Therefore, to indicate that certain people should have been arrested at present is jumping the gun. The state never mentioned that the door of investigation has been totally closed. The contrary is actually true. So the state are conceding that the investigation is nowhere near complete, which means there is going to be delays. All right? There's been a delay since February last year when the deceased was shot. The extradition proceedings, and if there is a person who can talk with authority, it is my learned friend for accused number 1 and 5, because when he was part of the DPP's office, that was his function, was to deal with extraditions. And, Your Worship, I have no doubt that he is not going to contradict me if I say an extradition from one country to another, as close as what we are, can take up to 2 years, if not longer. So we're not looking at a trial which is likely to take place any time this year. Your Worship, I'm not going to deal with the bank statements, even though I handed in accused number 4's affidavit. My learned friend for accused number 4, applicant number 4, will deal with the bank statements. But there's a lot to be said about that. Your Worship, it is not sufficient in a bail application to say that there is a risk unless that risk is backed up by evidence. In other words, the authorities have said that there must be a likelihood that a particular official, they are still in possession of it. And when he says,
To confirm.
he says, the state after, where's that going to take the court? It's not going to take
That
information in paragraph A, which is form part of the record of the trial of the accused, following upon such bail proceedings. It does not say any proceedings. So those bail is not criminal proceedings. So the state were not entitled to use
the accused such information, could that not be misleading? So it is.
Well, it's explained. The state have been aware of it all the time. They can't say we were not aware of the fact that the accused had a passport. They can't say that. They were aware of it. They were in possession of it. So, Your Worship, that statement was not designed to try and mislead the court. That's why there's an explanation. Drafter of my affidavit. Your Worship, other than the submissions already made, unless Your Worship has, he has his personal circumstances, the fact that he's been in custody all this time, the fact that he is productively employed, that he contributes to the fiscus, that he has a family to maintain, I submit are all relevant, and when put into the melting pot for the court to decide whether he has more than one wife, he has a number of children that he has to maintain. So, Your Worship, by keeping him in custody, all we're doing is making his children suffer. And, Your Worship, one must bear in mind the business that he is involved in, namely the taxi business. That's cash business. You can't collect his income. And that income, those people who are employed by the applicant are not going to go to his wife and say, listen, your husband is in custody, so here the day is taken. It doesn't work like that. So his family are suffering as a result of him being in custody. And I submit that is a very serious.
Well, we have touched upon it, and I want to take you back to it. His business is in the taxi industry.
Yes.
By his own statement under oath, his family is involved in Malugazi faction. Yes. And some of his family members have been killed. Yes. Through the violence that is there, because that industry is volatile, particularly at Malugazi. Yes, sir. The risk that is there, if he goes out, that he may also be eliminated.
Your Worship, as you've said, he wasn't arrested at Malagasy. He was arrested in Johannesburg. So he's kind of divorced himself away from but he feels he is safe, because otherwise he wouldn't be bringing this bail application. He would probably say, well, I'd be safer in custody. But it doesn't mean that his life is under threat. His life hasn't been threatened so far. As far as we know, we have no instructions to the contrary that his life has been threatened. So until there is a threat, an actual threat, not a speculation. Your Worship, I'm also advised that there has been government intervention as far as the taxi violence in KZN is concerned, which has resulted in a great decline of taxi.
The situation is volatile, and he
Of the faction that is trying to fight for who is responsible or who takes over the taxi rate. He has people working for him. And in any event, Your Worship, as was stated in his affidavit, I'm loath to use the word likelihood because the state uses the word, but any such likelihood, and one has just to refer to by the imposition of not go back to Malagasy. If he then goes back there, he's broken a bail condition, he can be arrested. All the state has to do is apply for a warrant for his arrest and he gets arrested.
I think let's do justice to applicant number 2. Let's be fair to him. Let's give him a hearing. Allegations have been made by the state that applicant number 2 is part of the group.
It's rendered.
That it is on record that
Touched on, we've said, and his compatriot.
raising this so that there are no aspects of evidence that are left not addressed.
Well,
That's why I'm raising.
he says, yes, I received money. I distributed certain monies for services rendered. What more must he say?
It's not for me to answer those questions,
No,
but it's for him to say there is this piece of evidence that has been tendered, and there is that piece of evidence that has been tendered, and that piece of evidence, my explanation is grant me bail because of my explanation.
Your Worship, and I believe that I've addressed that. Grant me bail because, yes, I received money, but it was for services rendered, not for any unlawful purpose. Unless there are any other issues, Your Worship, those are my submissions.
Well, I've drawn your attention. Whatever has been said on their behalf is answered and is addressed. If you are satisfied as his counsel that you have addressed everything, I'm not
To address that.
It's not that I'm not happy about.
Well, Your Worship, I use the word loosely.
Mine is to address my conscience and make sure that at the end of the day, I've been presented with all facts and all facts have been properly addressed. Not because I'm not happy about anything, but
Your Worship,
I want to do justice to everyone.
Your Worship, I use the word unhappy loosely. I'm not saying you are unhappy. I'm saying if Your Worship has concerns, I'm happy to answer those concerns.
Anything else, Council?
Those are my submissions, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gilling?
Well, please, Your Worship, the heads of argument for the applicant has been filed with court, Your Worship, if that may be marked as an exhibit.
Exhibit P.
Exhibit P, as a court, please, Your Worship. Your Worship, the Exhibit C is the founding affidavits of applicant 3. The replying affidavit to the state's opposition is Exhibit J. We stand by the content of those affidavits. We feel we've addressed what needed to have been addressed. The heads of argument have been filed. We feel that everything that needed to be addressed and highlighted in respect of the evidence had been addressed in the heads of argument. In respect of affidavits, Your Worship, the affidavits are admissions made in the in respect of this. But anyway, so Tuesday I was here. Everybody is submitting whatever they've submitted in their affidavits as truth. That is before court. Read the heads of argument of the states, and I have no further submissions in respect of the states' heads of arguments, Your Worship.
As a reminder, by the way, how many charges or how many charges is he facing other than this one? Firearm.
Yes.
Two.
Then there is a second matter that my client is on bail for in DC 10. That will be for possession. I think there's a myriad of charges in respect of a shooting incident in which a person passed away. It's alleged to be a taxi-related incident, Your Worship.